Marvelous!
Marvel Comics. It's pretty underground. You probably never heard of it. Ha! Just kidding. See, I tricked you by insinuating that a big multimedia company was actually less popular than it is, and you fell for it. Fucking idiot. You know what else is popular? SpaghettiOs. So why not combine the two? Unfortunately, that whole deal fell through after the whole Tolkien fiasco. So instead, in early 2010, Marvel decided to do a deal with anime. Well, more likely it wasn't them, because in late 2009, they had already been bought out by the mouse. It would also make sense that the anime studio they got, Studio Madhouse, would be more than happy to make some anime for Marvel, since Marvel was arguably more popular in Asia than in Western markets. And of course, who wouldn't want Studio Madhouse? Everyone knew them at the time for their famous anime like Beyblade, Black Lagoon, and the Maple Story anime. Look, they can all be winners. Madhouse, along with Marvel and Sony Japan, made 4 12-episode miniseries as well as 2 direct-to-DVD movies. They also would later make Marvel Future Avengers. I'm not going to talk about it because look at it. The 4 series they chose to make anime on confuse me. Now, Iron Man being in 2 of them makes the most sense, and one of the movies being about the Avengers makes sense. Weird that the Punisher's involved, but no real issues there. The X-Men and Wolverine one kind of baffle me though. If you've seen any other Marvel project in the past decade outside of film, you know they go out of their way to make sure any other media is used to promote upcoming films in the MCU. Just ask Marvel vs. Capcom fans. It's just strange to see them promote these other characters that, as far as I'm aware, were still owned by Sony, at least for the movie rights. But Sony Japan did team up with them in a sense to make these projects, and it's only been a year since Michael's been in charge, and I assume this deal took years to make, so it's not impossible, more improbable. And then the big outlier is Blade. What a strange choice. I mean, yeah, I like Blade. I like the Wesley Snipes movies, the first one anyway. But especially in 2010, who the fuck was Blade at this point? Why would they make an anime project about him? Yeah, it'd be cool to see his vampire killing in anime form, but even today, not many people know much about Blade. Like, who the fuck is he really? The only people who know about him are comic nerds like me. Who knows? The show could be good. I haven't really seen it yet. Let's be honest, Marvel, you really dropped the ball here. Like, come on. You didn't want to make an anime based on one of your most popular characters? Everyone would watch an anime about them. Like, come on, do I even need to say who it is? The answer is so obvious. You should have made an anime about Howard the Duck. It was right there. It would have been the best thing ever. Beastars is pretty hot right now. I'm just saying, man. One of the more interesting things to me is that these anime were broadcast on the G4 network. The first one. It's really sad I have to make that distinction now. Now, broadcasting these anime on G4 isn't a completely terrible idea. It's well known that gamers, neckbeards, and weebs often gravitate in the same social circles. Occasionally. Sometimes. Sort of. But I mean, I'm just saying, G4 did fail twice. So I'm going to assume most of you probably don't even know about these, or maybe just have some vague memory of them. And really the only people that actually watched these religiously when they came out were the huge nerds that had no time on their hands. Like this guy. That's right, I liked Marvel, anime, and G4 at the time, so you bet your ass I watched these shows. But even I don't remember what any of them were about, or even if I liked them, I guess they didn't leave that much of an impression on me. So I wanted to rewatch them and see if that maybe they were some good shows that I just happened to forget, or maybe there's a reason they needed to be forgotten. Now, some things were consistent across all 4 of these series. One of them was Warren Ellis, a well-known comic book writer that has a good track record on not only comics, but games, and most recently worked as the head writer for the Castlevania Netflix show. He didn't necessarily write or direct a lot of this stuff. He was more of in a producer role, I guess, making sure everything stayed consistent in the shows. Spoilers, he did okay, I guess. Another thing is all of these shows take place in or around Japan, which has my weeb and comic book sides conflicted. I'm glad for the change of scenery, mostly from your standard Metropolis, New York type cities the Marvel heroes are known to be in. But as an anime fan, it's more Japan, like 90% of any other anime, because if you didn't know, anime is made there. I didn't know that, I just found that out a little while ago, and I'm not okay with it. The art style is also shared among the series, going for a more realistic anime look, but at the same time, especially with the male faces, you can tell that they're trying to still have some essence of Western comic book style. I think for the most part, it looks fine and gets better as the series go on. And I think the reason I feel this way about it is most animation studios simplify art to make it easier to animate, such as the case here, but to also add to the more realistic style, they simply added more lines to faces. Like for the female characters, it's mostly lines under the eyes for eyelashes, which I think is too much, makes them look like bags. I think they need a nap. And they also go a little too ham on the lips. For the dudes, again, just too many lines on the face. Sometimes for gruff characters like Old Man or Wolverine, it's fine, but look at Anthony, man. He looks like a weird amalgamation between Robert Downey Jr.'s comic version and an anime bishi. Hey, since we're talking about him, why not start with the Iron Man anime, since it was the first one to air? And boy, what I want to start with, because it sucks. It's about Anthony going to Japan to install an arc reactor power station for newer, efficient, cleaner energy. Why he is not installing such a thing in his own home country, I have no idea. It just proves he's a traitor. He's also introducing new Iron Man armor that will replace him when he retires. The armor is called Iron Man Dio.
What matters is now they've got control of Dio.
Mr. Stark, it appears Dio is headed outside.
No, I refuse. I'm not going to use any images or sound effects or anything. It's too easy. If it ever does get referenced by me, it's going to be done in a much more clever way than this. I don't take handouts. Anyway, the main problem with the show is nothing fucking happens. The main conflict is the meme armor gets hacked and is used for evil, along with Anthony fighting this organization called Zodiac. Guess what their gimmick is? The Weeb armor has more emotional weight tied to it as it involves Ho Yinsen, the man who helped Anthony make the first Iron Man armor when he was captured by terrorists, and Anthony thought he died during that time. Oh yeah, I'm obviously going to be spoiling all of these shows and movies. I assume most of you don't care. Either way, here's a pro tip for you. If you do watch these shows, if there is a Japanese character, especially an original one, don't get attached. They will die. Speaking of that, the supporting cast is kind of meh. The researcher Anthony works with is fine, but doesn't really get anything until the last third when you find out she's a robot and she dies. Then there's this military guy who in the last half helps Tony with his own armor and he then dies. Then there is a reporter character, because every superhero property needs a reporter character. She unfortunately lives and is the most annoying and useless one. Yeah, she helps Anthony out sometimes, but she's used mostly for comedy. I'm not super up to date on Iron Man supporting characters, but I assume she's an anime original by the hair spikes, and I hope she stays that way. Also, why did every woman in this show want to hop on Anthony's dick like he's the coolest motherfucker ever? Look at him. You want to fuck that? Anthony himself is so lame. I'm not just talking about the show, I mean in general. Be honest, how many of you actually like Tony Stark, the character? Or do you just like Robert Downey Jr.? Like, come on, that guy made the character. No one gave a shit about Anthony before then. Anytime someone else tries to do it, they just do the same shit. Act like this cocky, sarcastic son of a bitch that uses his comedy and attitude to hide his own insecurities. But no one else can do it like him. Tony Stark is only interesting when he's the guy from Tropic Thunder or an alcoholic. Any other time, he's a rich douchebag. Not saying the actor playing Anthony here is bad, he's fine. It's just personally, I wish they would try to do their own thing more than copy the Marvel movies. But I assume that's a decision more by he who shall not be named rather than the actors themselves. The pacing of the show, I think, is what also has me mixed on it. It feels like a comic in the sense that episodes are a Monster of the Week format, but it's all connected to the overall plot with Zodiac and you thought it was Iron Man armor. Now, I don't want to keep using this word, I feel like I use it too much in videos, but it did make some episodes kind of feel like filler as they didn't feel totally connected to what's going on. And if the anime is only 12 episodes and it feels like I'm wasting my time with one of them, that's a bad sign. I mean, not all of them are bad. Like the one episode where there was a infectious disease that caused a pandemic in Japan, killing people as they go on lock. You know what? Skip that one. My point is, I think the concepts for the stories are fine. It's just that the people it's happening to are boring as shit. The animation is definitely not Madhouse's best either. A lot of the fights are done in CG, which makes sense since a lot of it is done with complicated armor, so drawing that a lot would be a pain in the ass. But it also looks like a PS2 game. Even the 2D segments are so stiff sometimes, it feels like I'm watching a slideshow. No, it's not because of the quality I'm watching it in. I actually went out of my way to find this footage of the show on G4 just for that authentic experience. Yeah, it's not the best quality footage, but I can still see the animation, and anyone who's seen the studio's other work can tell this is not their best. They can do better than this. Besides, if I didn't use G4 Vision, how would I know such amazing things like the new season of American Ninja Warrior is going to be premiering soon? Or that, what, Anne Hathaway is Catwoman in the new Batman? TiVo? In fact, the most excited I got from watching the show was when Wolverine showed up for like 5 minutes in one episode, because for some reason he appears in every show. Speaking of him, let's move on to his anime, and this one's way better. I think the Japanese aesthetic works more for Wolverine, which might be weird to some who haven't read the comics, but trust me, this Canadian is the weebiest hero in the Marvel Universe. The story's about Wolverine tracking down his lost love Mariko, who suddenly disappeared a year ago. Turns out she was taken by her super crime boss father to be forced to marry some creepy dude. And if you know anything about Wolverine and his love interest, I'm sure he will save her with no issues whatsoever. Along the way, Wolvie teams up with an assassin who wants to kill Yakuza Dad for killing her parents, and he also forms a rivalry with a samurai under Yakuza Dad's employ that is also a mutant. So one reason the show is better is because, well, honestly, if the idea of Wolverine going to Japan, fighting Yakuza, mutant samurai, and assassins doesn't sound cool to you, you must be a really lame person. The animation during the fight scenes is better than Tin Man, going with a lot less CG. Still not the top tier stuff I know the studio can do, but still pretty good. Seriously, did Marvel not pay these guys enough? They can do better. Also, I think the directing choices are a lot better in this. There are some cool shots in this anime with some good framing and a lot of nice use of colors to make certain scenes stand out. The pacing's better as well since Wolverine has an actual goal and it takes them outside Japan for a change of scenery. And since we're not stuck in one city like Iron Man, it allows for more varied environments and helps it feel like the story is moving forward. It's not perfect, like there are 2 episodes where Omega Red shows up for no reason. He's just in the show for 2 episodes because, I don't know, they wanted to have some random X-Men villain in the show to appease the neckbeards. Thanks, I appreciate it. And then there's like this anime kid character in it who shows up halfway through. She seems like she's going to be important, but then she dies. I guess that was for the weeb neckbeards. The supporting cast is a bit smaller, but it is better most of the time. Like the assassin Yuriko who teams up with Wolverine. Now at first she kind of just watches Logan fight all the mutants and just stands there. She doesn't really do anything, like she's some kind of Yamcha. And she spends one whole episode kidnapped. But around the last third of the show, she starts getting more development. Until she dies. I'm noticing a pattern. She's first the kid, then the assassin. Well, he's still got Monica. Oh, right. Wolverine, here's a thought. Maybe try getting some guy friends. I think the women in your life would be better off for it. Speaking of bros, one thing I don't like is my bro Wolverine's design. He looks too much like a Bishi for me. He should be a hairy, gruff gremlin. That's the Logan I stand, not this attempt at some Bishonen bullshit. And also, look, here's the thing. These shows are sort of connected, like, you know, it's trying to have its own little mini Marvel anime universe, and I do not understand the timeline here. Like, I don't know what version of Wolverine this is. Is it young Wolverine or the standard gruff adult one we all know? Because he clearly looks younger and a lot more cocky, but at the same time, we see he's already done shit like the Weapon X program. He had a time when he worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., when he fought Omega Red. He even has worked with the X-Men at some point because Cyclops shows up, and the two have clearly known each other for a while now. And this is what he looked like in the Iron Man anime, where he also clearly known him for a while. But as we're going to see in the X-Men anime, he looks more like he traditionally does. I thought you were supposed to keep things in check, Ellis. Or whatever. None of that like really matters to your enjoyment of this. Chalk it up to me being just an anal comic book fan. One thing that is a part of this anime is the voice actor for Wolverine. I watched all these shows dubbed, by the way. And the one for him was fine. Took a while for him to grow on me. I kind of had to start interpreting him as a younger, more inexperienced Wolverine to get used to him.
I'm just warming up. Next time I'm gonna take your head off.
But just like how RDJ is Iron Man, for me, no one has a better Wolverine than Stephen Bloom. He is that character to me. And I guess they couldn't get him for this. Maybe scheduling stuff happened or something.
That was a lot of effort. And all for a single strand of my hair. Hardly worth it.
Oh. So the guy well known for voicing Wolverine is in the Wolverine anime. He's just not voicing Wolverine. They've been doing this Mario movie shit for years, huh? I think the show is just best if you turn off your brain, you know? Like, the story and characters aren't exactly complicated here. It's just Wolverine going around fighting all the things I mentioned before. And if you don't think that's fun, then this probably isn't the show for you. And if you want more Wolverine with a side of racism, then X-Men anime's got you covered. Taking place after the Phoenix Saga, you know, the one where Jean dies. Ooh, starting it off with the death this time, mixing it up. The story sees everyone's favorite allegory for discrimination, who disbanded after Jean's death, reuniting after a year to go to Japan to find Hisako Ichiki, a missing mutant girl, and once there they find a whole organization called the U-Men, one of the stupider X-Men villains based on name alone. U-Men have kidnapped several mutants in Japan to harvest their organs, including another X-Men enemy, Emma Frost, who was mentoring Hisako at the time. Another thing to discover is that several mutants are starting to go through second mutations that cause them to go berserk and eventually die. So teaming up with an old enemy, trying to mentor Hisako as a new X-Men, and trying to keep themselves together after being apart for so long, the X-Men have to figure out what's going on. So yeah, I mean, with all that stuff going on, do I even need to say that the X-Men has the best story? Like really, man, there's just a lot of stuff going on in this show. I could probably make a whole video on it just in of itself. Like I couldn't even mention stuff like there's things going on with Emma's old organization, the Inner Circle being involved, Xavier's old love interest, and his son being used for the whole plot. There's a lot going on, and I personally find it all interesting. Unlike the other shows, I don't think there's an episode in this one that feels useless. Every episode either moves the plot forward or offers some insight into the characters. I think taking place after the Phoenix Saga made them more interesting as well, with having more tension between the group. Added when Emma comes in, since Scott claims he saw her there when Jean died, thinking she's involved in it somehow. I think it's even got some great theming going on too, with the X-Men, mostly Cyclops, just experiencing Jean's death, which involves her losing control of her powers, which is what's happening with the second mutations, and even Hisako is trying to control her own powers, making it harder for, mostly Cyclops, to handle the situation. I also like the cast is kept pretty small for X-Men standards. It keeps it under double digits, so it doesn't get too messy with too many muties in the pot. I think keeping it to Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Beast, Emma, Hisako, and Charlie was a great idea. And hey, you don't get all the mutants you like, but some of them get cameos at the end. Even Spider-Man, oh wait, no, it's not Spider-Man. But even with the small cast for X-Men standards, I still feel some characters didn't get enough chance to shine. Logan doesn't do much, but that's fine. We just had an entire anime about him, so he's just there to be cool, as he should always be used. But I wish Storm did more. She is one of my favorite X-Men, but I don't feel she really contributes much in terms of the plot. I guess she's the more level-headed one out of all of them, but she definitely didn't feel as important. I do like her redesign, though. It's pretty cool. I like Emma's as well. I can't really explain why, just something about them, I think, looks really good. The voice acting is also really well done for everyone, and for some reason, in this show, Logan is more like the design we commonly know and is voiced by Stephen Bloom.
He acts like he owns her, like Jean meant nothing to the rest of us. Well, there's one thing I know for sure, bub. Jeannie'd die all over again if she saw the way you're acting.
Which, look, yeah, sorry, Milo, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name. You were good, but this guy makes the character for me. He's great.
Unbelievable. Don't tell me you've been hanging out here this whole time. Where do you take a dump?
Animation, I wouldn't really say got better from Wolverine. It's still pretty standard. It's, nothing special. But I'd say the best aspect of this is the story and characters. Those are the best parts. And even the art style is starting to grow on me. It maybe feels like Madhouse is really starting to get used to these series, making everything feel more natural. Well, natural for comic book bullshit. I'd say out of the three so far, it's not my favorite, but I think it's the best one. Now, the last series is the one I was most curious about, the Blade anime. And you know what? I was kind of excited. After seeing all of the cool shit in Wolverine and X-Men along with the better story, I was interested to see what they would do for this. And I was subsequently disappointed because this is the most mid-anime I've ever seen. Do I need to explain the plot to Blade to you? If you don't know, big nigga kills vampires. That's every Blade story. In this one specifically, he's after Deacon Frost, the vampire that killed his mom. Along for the ride is his soon-to-be dead partner, Makoto. And yeah, the story is pretty much just a revenge story. Look, like the Wolverine anime, if you were not down for Blade fighting vampires, yakuza, ninjas, and random monsters with the ancestor of Van Helsing and his monster-killing dog, I don't want to hang around you because you must be super boring and not think that sounds like the coolest, stupidest, funnest thing ever. The animation's the best here? These four series, I guess. Again, there are some pretty good directing choices as well. The characters are okay. Makoto starts off kind of stupid and unlikable to me when Blade kills her father after he gets turned into a vampire and is literally about to kill her. And she's like, you killed my dad, I'm gonna get revenge. Even though she saw Deacon Frost actually kill him and Blade was saving her life. So I didn't like her because she came off as stupid and whiny. Thankfully, after a few episodes, she comes to her senses and joins Blade on the vampire killing. And she's okay. I don't really feel either way towards her. She's not completely hateable. She's not likable. She's okay. I did not like how the show tried to ship them. One episode, Wolverine has his obligatory cameo and is like, yo, Blade, you fucking? Like, what the hell, Logan? And in this one, again, he's not voiced by Spike Spiegel, even though he's also in it, and is back to his younger design. See why I'm confused about the timeline here? I think the villains in this show, the vampires, are probably the most boring. Like, Deacon Frost is just whatever. He's just a strong vampire. Who cares? They try to give him some backstory near the end, but I don't really care because I know Blade's just going to kill him anyway. And they have this whole betrayal and politics thing going on in the vampire world to give them more to do. But yeah, I don't care because I know Blade's just going to kill them. If this wasn't a one-off mini-series, I'd probably be more interested because it might go somewhere, but because it isn't, the stuff they set up either gets resolved too quick or is forgotten. Honestly, the more I watched the show and when I saw the design of the vampires, I just more thought, this must have been the thing that got Warren Ellis hired for Castlevania. I think the best part of the show is Blade himself. He is the best protagonist in all of these series. They really go into his backstory and how he got to the point he is today, and it's actually kind of tragic. I feel for him and understand why he wants revenge so bad, considering vampires literally ruined his life on multiple occasions. Plus, I mean, come on, how can you not like Blade? I mean, look at him. You can't deny this guy looks like one of the coolest edgelords out there. Like, seriously, man, have you seen the Wesley Snipes movies? Even in the comics, he's somehow the most cool and corny hero in the Marvel Universe, and I love him. I do also like how the show doesn't take place entirely in Japan, only really like the first couple episodes. After that, it's more of a globe-trotting thing. But like Iron Man, the pacing needed some work. And it really feels like it takes a halt in the middle while we just have all these one-off stories that come out of nowhere until it picks up again in the last few episodes. Yeah, I just don't have much to say about it because it's just, okay, it's alright. Voice acting's alright. The animation's alright. Story's alright. Characters are alright. It's alright. That's all 4 of the anime series, and I'm gonna say, besides Iron Man, they were all better than I expected. I do think the best one is the X-Men anime. However, my favorite I'd say is the Wolverine one. Look, I'm a simple man. Yeah, I love theming and characters and writing and all that stupid shit. But at the end of the day, I just want to watch cool shit in anime, and Wolverine has some cool shit. So we cut to a few years later. Of course, Madhouse was working on some other stuff in between, and after no one appreciated the High School of the Dead anime as the art that it is, they went back to Marvel and decided to make 2 direct-to-DVD movies, the first one being Iron Man Rise of the Technovore. Now, the fact that it was direct-to-DVD had me worried, and my worries were confirmed immediately because this movie is boring. It's about this new villain, Ezekiel Stane, this shonen motherfucker, son of Obadiah Stane. You probably remember him as Jeff Bridges. Bishi's son comes in and tries to destroy Anthony's new satellite that's supposed to detect crime or some shit, and in the process he kills War Machine, sort of, and Anthony sets out on a quest for revenge. It is so uninteresting. The only part I was really paying attention in this movie was the random Punisher inclusion, because him and Iron Man are an uncommon combo, and I want to watch them interact. Also, I don't know how, but the Punisher in this film is voiced by Hideo Kojima's best friend, Norman Reedus.
Why don't you get the hell out of the way, Iron Man? This has nothing to do with a rich idiot who dresses like a hot rod.
Which makes it now 2 cast members from The Walking Dead that have played this character. It's weird that it's happened twice, right? The rest of the film, honestly, I can't do much of a recap or give my thoughts because it did not keep my interest. I was barely paying attention. It's mostly Anthony trying to figure out who and why Bishi Boy would do this, and I don't care because he's not an interesting villain. He does something that I didn't realize was such a trope with anime villains until watching this, which is sitting in a void while talking to some random anime chick. This is a thing, think about it. It happens a lot. I also barely remember the other characters. I guess Fury was fine, but I never cared about Widow or Bowman or Black Iron Man, and like I said before, Anthony is not interesting unless he's him or he's drunk. The action scenes are so flat, hits do not feel weighty, and again, a lot of 3D models, and these PS2 graphics made any punch thrown lack any impact. Direction and cinematography is pretty bland as well. The only shot I remember off the top of my head is when the camera pans over Pepper Potts in a bikini in a scummy way, just because it comes out of nowhere and I'm a pervert. And yeah, that's it. I literally remember nothing else about this movie. They somehow made a worse Iron Man movie than Iron Man 2. That's impressive. Finally, the last thing I'm looking at for this video is the second direct-to-DVD movie, Avengers Confidential, Black Widow, and Punisher. Anyone else think when hearing that? Yeah, that sounds like a direct-to-DVD movie title, alright. Now, personally, I did enjoy this one more, but I still think it's on par with the last movie. So the Punisher, not voiced by Norman Reedus this time, kills some dudes as he does, but turns out this interrupted a S.H.I.E.L.D. operation as they were trying to capture an arms dealer named Kane, who escapes because of the Punisher, so Nick Fury makes him a deal, help them catch Kane or rot away in a S.H.I.E.L.D. prison. So he begrudgingly accepts and teams up with Black Widow, and during the operation they discover a plot involving an organization called Leviathan, mind control, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s weird blood samples, I'm not going to explain that further. And eventually we get cameos from more interesting heroes like Thor, Hulk, and Captain Marvel. For those that don't know Captain Marvel, she's essentially the Superman of this universe, which makes me ask, after she does show up, how do the heroes not just win automatically? They have a literal Super Saiyan on their side. Yeah, so this one's okay, it's got a lot more going on at least. It involves an old flame of Black Widow who's evil now, giving her something to do, and the dynamic between Punisher and Black Widow is actually kind of interesting to watch. But the whole plot by the bad guys is nothing new for superhero stuff, and once again, animation is not movie quality. Just hear me out. Watch this, and then go watch what they made a year later, which was One Punch Man. Now, admittedly, I'm not a big Pun fan myself. I've liked some stuff he's done, like the Netflix show, some of the movies, but I will admit, he's pretty good in this. He's probably the best part of this film. I think the voice actor especially did a pretty good job portraying Frank.
I killed 3 innocent people in the process. I can't be trusted out there on my own. I could be turned at any moment.
But yeah, other than that, these movies are boring. They clearly had no passion behind it, so why should I even bother talking about it anymore? And that's all the Marvel Madhouse anime that I'm looking at. And yeah, I hate to leave this off negative, but I really don't like those movies, man. They were not good. It just makes me wish that they put a little bit more effort into them, you know, like had some good story, maybe something on par with the X-Men anime mixed with some film quality animation. Could have been some good stuff. I will admit though, this whole Marvel anime binge kind of got me into the mood to watch some more Marvel movies. Maybe I'll watch one after this. Or 2. Or 10. Or why stop at the MCU? Or Sony? I can go beyond. I wonder how many Marvel movies there are, actually.